Welcome, welcome. How is everyone doing? Welcome to another NJThrives Small Business webinar. If you guys can just put a 1 in the chat to make sure you guys can hear me, see the screen, that'd be helpful. Awesome, awesome. Thank you everyone. And good afternoon to you as well. Great. Now, before we get started, would love for everyone to also put in the chat, what kind of business are you in? That way our presenter is able to tailor the conversation to your business, to your industry. And also, you never know who you're going to meet. We've had people network inside of our chat and share contact information and all that. So you never know where your next client or partner or customer is going to come from. So yeah, drop it in the chat throughout the presentation. It would be a great help. But let's get right into it. So I'm your host, Christian Pichardo, NJSBDC Specialty Consultant and CEO at nilomomedia.com. And we're America's New Jersey Small Business Development Centers Network. So NJSBDC, we're a statewide program powered by the SBA and partners to help small businesses in New Jersey with 3 things: no-cost small business consulting, training and events starting at $0, and exclusive small business resources. So for today's agenda, we go over a couple of headlines. We have about 3 today. We'll jump into the webinar after that. And towards the end of the webinar, there is a Q&A session, but I encourage everyone to ask questions throughout the presentation. So for small business headlines of the week, we have some time to prepare for this, but from May 2nd to the 5th is National Small Business Week. So we have some things planned at the NJSBDC, some events, some cool things on social media, but I do encourage you guys to hop on SBA's website and see what's going on during National Small Business Week. Not only do they usually do things that will help promote your business, they have a cool little map and events and things like that you can register your business for. And that way it's public, so it helps you promote your business. But it's also a great thing to just get involved, you know, hop in the conversation with other small businesses across the US. So this one's huge. So would love for everyone to, you know, participate, whether it's with the SBA or with the NJSBDC. So that's 1. 2 here is NJEDA announces a partnership with Golden Seeds, and they are an early stage investment firm that focuses on women entrepreneurs. So basically, they created a partnership to create the opportunity to increase available capital for women-led businesses, as well as mentoring women entrepreneurs in New Jersey. So I think this is the first time a partnership like this happens. So this will be very interesting to see how it plays out. If you have any questions, they have office hours that they're promoting here. So if you get to this page, you can go ahead and, you know, ask your questions. You know, you never know what could happen from these kinds of meetings. So that is headline number 2. And headline number 3 is a new personal finance program created by the New Jersey Department of the Treasury. So basically, this is to help you with your personal finances. So here you have a checkup to assess your current finances. Here it seems that there's an analysis of your personality and how it affects your money decisions. Third one here is how to build financial skills. And down here, there's a bunch of tools, such as a budgeting tool, helps you keep track of expenses, a retirement tool, etc. So it seems that there's going to be a ton of content, and you see it has courses here, and all this is incredibly useful because your finances start with you, and then those get then transferred to your business. So it's incredibly important to be updated on what you can do, right? So those are our 3 headlines for today. Now, before we jump into the webinar, there are 2 things to keep in mind. One is to please type your questions into the Q&A box, not the chat. That way we're able to keep track of all the questions. The chat could get filled with a bunch of messages and your question might get lost in there. And also you can ask your question anonymously in the Q&A box. So that's one. And number 2 is please complete a 3-minute survey. Not only does this help us develop future events, but you'll be able to access the webinar resources once that's complete. So once this webinar closes out, only once it closes out, you'll get redirected to the 3-minute survey. You fill it out and you'll get access to the presentation and the recording of this webinar. So that being said, without further ado, I'd like to welcome on Sierra Gutierrez. She'll be showing us what is QuickBooks for small business. So that's what today's presentation is about. How you doing, Sierra?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to share this time with all of you. I see there's many participants today from all industries. Very excited to share what QuickBooks can do for all of you.
Awesome. Well, it's all you. I've stopped sharing my screen and you can go ahead.
All right, here we go. All right. Okay. All right, so as Chris mentioned, my name is Sierra Gutierrez. I've been a financial consultant for small businesses for over 15 years. I have vast experience in multiple industries. I saw there's some restaurateurs here, some physicians, real estate, consultants, construction. I'm very experienced in accounting for all those businesses. And I've used QuickBooks and the various platforms for them, for all those clients. So I am a big QuickBooks fan. I think it is super user-friendly and it can be tailored to your business. Or if you're someone that has multiple businesses, you do multiple things, you can also use QuickBooks for that. So we're gonna talk about a little bit of all the functions that are within QuickBooks. We're gonna talk about how you can use it for your industry. We will have some classes that will be more process-driven that I will actually show you how to do most of the functions that I'm gonna be speaking about today. So today you're just gonna get a general overview about the platform and how to utilize it so that you can have control of all the financial aspects of your business. Gloria, we're gonna start the poll now. The first question. If you guys can just take a second and answer. Awesome. Great. All right. Okay. Give everybody one more minute to answer. Awesome. Okay, we can end the poll now. Great. So the majority of you who are attending today have never used it, which is great because we're going to talk about everything there is to know with QuickBooks from a very simple start point. I don't want anyone to feel that this is overwhelming because it certainly is not. You can get started right away. So what is QuickBooks? QuickBooks is an accounting software package developed and marketed by Intuit. First introduced in 1983, QuickBooks products are geared mainly towards small and medium-sized businesses. QuickBooks has a cloud-based platform called QuickBooks Online, as well as various desktop versions. So QuickBooks is part of the Intuit family. So if you guys are familiar with TurboTax or the Mint app, they're under the same umbrella, which is wonderful because that means the products talk to one another. So especially for my consultants out there that are doing their own taxes, if you're managing your expenses and your revenue through QuickBooks, by the time it comes to do your taxes through TurboTax, if you choose to do TurboTax, all the information is already there. So there's a huge advantage into working with the umbrella of Intuit products. Next slide. Oh, all right. So why are we choosing QuickBooks? There's a ton of accounting programs out there. I've used various ones. My favorite is always QuickBooks because of how user-friendly it is. It is not intimidating. I know for many of us business owners, business practices or accounting practices are not your strength, right? That's why you hire a CPA or you hire a bookkeeper. But these platforms are designed to be utilized not only by tax specialists or your CPA, but by you, for you to understand how to manage your business through this software. So they offer tons of tutorials, and even the platforms themselves have roadmaps and guides for you. So you should not feel intimidated. You should not feel like you need to take a year course for this or go back to school. This is something that you can totally utilize yourself, okay? One of the other great benefits of QuickBooks is that you can really tailor it to any industry. So as I mentioned before, I've had various clients in various industries, and I've used the same software across the board. What changes is the level of reporting or the chart of accounts, okay? So the chart of accounts, think about it as a filing cabinet for your business. The chart of accounts is a folder for all the different expenses, bank accounts, loans, etc. It's all listed in this giant filing cabinet. That's what the chart of accounts is. So that can be tailored based on whatever services you offer. It can be as extensive or as simple as you want it to be. And QuickBooks really puts that power in your hands. Also, if you're working with a CPA, the CPA might upload their own chart of accounts with special numbering. It's very easy to do that. So that's not something that should be daunting for you whatsoever. When you set up your QuickBooks account, they ask you specifically, what industry are you in? And based on your response is the blanket or the generic chart of accounts that you're gonna get. So you also don't have to look this up and think, oh, do I need this or don't I need this? It's all there for you. No business is too small to utilize QuickBooks. I myself am a one-man show, so I've used QuickBooks without having employees, just customers, just clients, right? Because I am the service. I am offering the service. It could be one client, it could be 20 clients. You could be selling one t-shirt, you could be selling 100 t-shirts. As long as you have a customer or are providing a service, you are a business. So the earlier you organize yourself and see yourself as such, the better you're going to be. And QuickBooks is definitely going to help you do that. Creating your own financial statements. I don't know how familiar any of you guys are with what financial statements are, but we're talking about profit and loss statements, which show your income or your revenue minus your expenses and will show your profit. And then there's balance sheets, which will show your assets and your liabilities, your loans, equipment that you've bought, etc. Most of the time we have to go to our CPAs for that, or to our accountant for that, or whomever handles your books. But if you're able to access this information yourself, and the bank calls you up, or a loan officer calls you up, or you're trying to apply for a grant, you don't need to wait on anyone to access it. You can do this yourself. The next point is cash flow management. So I come from a small business background. My family is full of entrepreneurs. And one of the biggest hurdles for most businesses is cash flow management, because there is the misconception that money in the bank is the money that the business has. And that's absolutely not true. We know that, right? You can have $10,000 sitting in your business bank account, but you've written down $9,000 of checks. In reality, you only have $1,000 left. That's what you have to work with. So if I were to go by what my bank balance is telling me, I'm getting an inaccurate figure. Same thing. If I process sales, right, and I'm waiting for that credit card deposit to go in, what's in my bank account right now is not reflecting my sales from yesterday, right? So this will help you really understand the financial health of your business. And it'll also eliminate, I know from experience, that waking up in the morning and checking the bank account to see what the balance is. You won't need to do that. This is going to provide what you're working with on a day-to-day basis, okay? This will also help you, like I mentioned before, take control of your finances before tax season. We are in tax season right now. Some of us are very organized. Some of us are not. Some of us are CPA's favorite client. Some of us are not. So if you are taking control of your finances well before tax season, it's going to help you with tax planning. It's going to help you really see how you're doing as a business versus just guessing. And it'll also help you make better decisions when it comes to understanding where your money is going, right? All of this before sitting down with your CPA. Obviously, if you're utilizing the software, if you're not using it, then it can't give you all this information, right? And again, you can access it at any time without having to wait for your CPA to come into your office or to give you a call, especially maybe in tax season right now, right? How many of you have reached out to your CPA either before processing your taxes or after and can't get them to call you back for a day or two because they're so busy, right? If you just need to know, hey, how much did I spend on payroll last June? You can look that up yourself. You don't need anyone to answer that question for you. All right. Let me see. Let me take a look at the chat. Great. Let me see if anybody has any questions. Is it possible to be your own CPA for your own business or businesses? Well, to be a CPA, you actually have to be a certified public accountant. So if you are a certified public accountant, you certainly can be. However, I think it's important to notate that just because you are handling your books doesn't mean that you shouldn't consult with a professional. Okay, unless this is your background and your area of expertise, it's always great to have someone work beside you because they'll be able to maybe point you in the right direction. Okay. All right, let's see what's next. All right. So QuickBooks, no matter what platform you are working with, has many functions, but let's say these couple of basic functions, right? Most importantly, bank fees, which are my personal favorite. You can connect any bank account for the most part. I have yet to see one bank that doesn't work well with QuickBooks. You can enter your credit cards, you can connect your loans, you can connect all of your accounts, which is great because you don't have to worry about doing the data entry. You don't have to manually enter your transactions once you've connected to the bank feeds, which is a game changer. However, that does not mean that you don't have to classify the transactions. So QuickBooks will automatically sync your data, and then you would have to choose either by creating rules, right? or by manually selecting where these expenses go, right? So they have software that'll automatically generate a category for you. So if you spend $100 in Home Depot, it'll see Home Depot and say repairs or whatever, right? Whatever category ties in with Home Depot. If there's a restaurant name, it'll say entertainment and dining. If it's staples, it'll say office supplies or office expense. So they do make it much easier for you. You would just have to click accept. Or if you have recurring charges every single month, your landlord's name is always the same, your, PSE&G, whatever is on a consistent basis, you can auto create rules so that it'll automatically save those transactions for you, which is great, right? Another great thing about the bank feeds, and I know that's usually a concern for business owners who may not have separate bank accounts. You may be mixing personal and business all in the same account, which I would say, please try to get your separate business account if you can. But if that's the case for you, you don't need to worry. There are ways to import that data and select what goes into the business. So if you have an account where you pay yourself and pay your business bills and pay your groceries, and some of them are personal expenses and some of them are business expenses, there's an easy way to separate the two and it won't be included in your books. So that's not an area of concern. You can enter your vendor bills. So for our restaurants, our real estate investors that have large volume of bills, right? You want to make sure you are aware of who you owe and when you're supposed to pay it, right? This is great for anyone who doesn't cut checks on a daily basis, right? If you're a person that gets a bill and pays it right away, that's amazing. But for most businesses, they're either cutting checks once a week, every 2 weeks, or once a month. This is a great way to see who do I owe this week or who can wait for 2 weeks. There's a ton of reports that you can run on that. So that's a really great function, the accounts payables aspect of it. Creating customer invoices. So for my consultants or my construction companies that need to send out invoices to clients and want things that are more formal and want to keep a record of your sales, all of the platforms allow this, as well as processing customer payments. So as soon as they get that invoice, they'll be able to pay you right away. You don't have to wait for a check, or you can specify whatever method you choose to get paid, all right? Payroll processing, another great feature of QuickBooks. They have their own payroll program, so you can use their modules to process your payroll. Or if you choose to use payroll like ADP or Paychex, it works very well with the QuickBooks system. So you can integrate all of that information seamlessly. It's really not that difficult. Most of these companies do make it a point to work well with QuickBooks because most businesses are using QuickBooks. So that's payroll processing. And also if you're doing for yourself, you're cutting your own checks, you can also enter that information and calculate taxes and all of that. They have that function as well, and pay the taxes as well. Creating financial statements, like I mentioned before, you can create your profit and loss statements. You can create your balance sheets. You can run the accounts payable reports when we're talking about vendors, knowing who to pay, what's outstanding. Accounts receivable reports, if you're sending out all of these invoices to your customers, you're checking who owes you money, who's over their terms, you need to make a few phone calls. These reports will make it very, very easy for you to understand where your business is at this particular point, at any particular point, but today, tomorrow, whenever you need it. All right. Let me see if anybody has any questions. What is a customer invoice? A customer invoice is if I were to provide a service to someone and they don't pay me on the spot and I have terms for them, I can submit an invoice and they will pay me later. Or if somebody wants a receipt for a service I've provided. They need an invoice for their records. That's what a customer invoice is. Do you know if QuickBooks easily integrates with e-commerce platforms such as Shopify? Yes, most e-commerce is very big right now. So I would assume that the best way to use that would be QuickBooks Desktop, because it's more for retailers and manufacturers. And we'll go into that a little later when we talk about QuickBooks. Security of privilege info on QuickBooks. Okay, that is also a really big concern, security, right? QuickBooks Online has a lot of security implementations. They pride themselves on making sure you feel safe about your information, your sensitive financial data being on their platform. So there's usually not usually, I haven't seen it not implemented, two-factor authentication. So if, for example, you sign up to QuickBooks Online and say you signed in on your phone, and then all of a sudden you sign in from an iPad, whomever the admin is, the main phone number that's tied in to that account will receive a code. Without that code, doesn't matter if you know the password, you can't access it. So security is taken very seriously. But if you're very, very, very concerned about security, then QuickBooks Desktop, which does not run on internet, is always the safest option, because it's centralized, right? It's installed on one computer, or however many computers have the license, but it's easier for you to maintain the confidentiality in that. All right. Which one's better, online or desktop? We're gonna go over the various platforms. It's really depending on, oh, I don't know what happened here. 1 second. Okay. Oh. All right, here we go. It really depends on your industry, and it really depends on your level of accounting. But we're gonna go into both platforms, the cloud-based and the locally installed QuickBooks, and it's really a personal choice. All right, so let's talk about QuickBooks Online. QuickBooks Online is cloud-based software, meaning that nothing is installed directly in your computer. It is accessed through the internet. So like I said, it's super portable. You can access it from your phone. You can access it from your iPad, from your Chromebook. Very user-friendly. And most people prefer to use QuickBooks Online if they're constantly on the go. If they're not someone who is at an office per se, or has a designated person, QuickBooks Online is a good way to utilize the QuickBooks software. Also, if you use it on your phone and you're a consultant, or you're in construction and you use receipts, just use your phone, take a picture, upload it right away. Also great for tracking mileage. QuickBooks Online has a feature for that. So it really depends on the industry that you're in. Like I mentioned, you can access it from anywhere. QuickBooks Online is also very, very easy to navigate. It just looks a lot more seamless and a lot less intimidating, in my opinion. I think I have, here's a picture of the dashboard. It's very simple. And I don't think that once you see QuickBooks Desktop, I think you're going to understand what I mean. This just looks like anyone can do it, right? On the left-hand side, there's different tabs. The tabs lead you to different places within QuickBooks, and it all has different functions. The banking tab would show your bank feeds. Customers and leads would be a great way for you to manage your customer list. Cash flow would show you what we spoke about in the beginning of the presentation. What is the health of my business? How much money do I have? What is this look? How have I done in sales? How have I done in expenses? The payroll tab, the expenses tab would be where you would enter your vendor bills, the reports, taxes, mileage, accounting, my accountant. So you can, one of the best benefits of QuickBooks Online is the availability or the accessibility that your CPA would have. You wouldn't need to send them your QuickBooks file. I don't know how any of you are sharing your information with your accountant, but this would give them access 24/7. They have to process your taxes. They don't even have to see you. They just log right in and they have everything they need. Also, QuickBooks Online offers My Experts. It's a little, see this module right here or this button, and they'll connect you with QuickBooks Pro advisors. So if you're stuck on a question, need to run a report, don't have anyone who can readily answer the question for you, then they have a service that they offer that can walk you through whatever it is that you may need. So super user-friendly, great for people who use iPads, use phones as a way to do business, right? And I think it's great for consultants, great for anyone who has very simple accounting. It does have its limitations. One of the things that can happen with QuickBooks Online is anything that's cloud-based or internet-based has the chance of crashing. And there have been times where I've tried to log on and the server's down. So it doesn't happen often, but those are one of the things that are to consider. Also, with QuickBooks Online, one of the great things that I like about it is that it gives you really easy payment processing options. So what do I mean? For example, my daughter's school uses QuickBooks Online to invoice parents. I get the invoice, I open up the invoice on my phone, and it automatically gives me a link to Apple Pay. I don't know about all of you, but Apple Pay is generally the way I pay most things. Click, one and done. I mean, it couldn't have been any easier. I don't have to open an envelope. I don't have to process anything. That person got paid right away. So that's one of the advantages of QuickBooks Online is how easily you're able to send out these invoices via email or through whatever system you choose to use or directly out of QuickBooks. You can send statements. I mean, it's very, very user-friendly, super user-friendly. The cost, this is a monthly subscription. So QuickBooks Online varies in price based on the features that you need or the amount of users that are on the account. So the cost per month can vary from $25 to $180. There are versions of QuickBooks that are, for example, self-employed that are about $8 a month, but the features are very, very limited. So it really depends on what you need and to the extent that you're going to use QuickBooks, and they base your pricing on that. Also, the great thing about QuickBooks Online is that you can have 1 to 25 users. So if you wanted to have one person entering your vendor bills, they can have their own user ID, and the visibility would only be for that vendor center or to enter bills. They wouldn't have access to your banking information or your credit cards. They wouldn't have any visibility to that. Same thing happens if you have someone that's going to be creating or generating your invoices. They would have their own username and password, only visibility for anything that is an accounts receivable function. So that'll also give you a lot more privacy. And like I mentioned as well, you can have your CPA have accountant access, and if they need to run any kind of reports on your behalf or they're preparing your taxes, they have your file ready and in their hands. All right, so let's see if there's any more Q&As. Okay. They do offer a service that can help you and walk you through setting up your business. I personally don't think it's necessary. I think with the general questions that they ask in the beginning, you get a good or a concise amount of accounts in your chart of accounts. I think that would only apply if you have a very specific business that requires a lot of accounting detail. And if that's the case, you should be working with a CPA, and the CPA should be the person designing your chart of accounts. Unless you choose to work with QuickBooks or Intuit rather from start to finish, which means that there would be your accounting software and you also plan to use one of their advisors to file your taxes. Then in that case, yes, you want to build a relationship with someone and it's worth the investment. I do know that working with QuickBooks directly seems to be a little more cost effective than finding a CPA. I cannot tell you if the level of service is the same. Every client I've worked with prefers to have a CPA that they can call at any time. So that is totally a personal choice. Okay. Now let's talk about, just be mindful of everyone's time. Let's talk about QuickBooks Desktop. So this is how QuickBooks Desktop, this is a dashboard. As you can see, it's very different than QuickBooks Online. It's based on accounting functions. So it's very clean, very to the point. I don't think it's as user-friendly, but it does have this little roadmap that can help you understand the flow of your business. For example, you enter bills and then you pay them. This has a different way of accessing information. From QuickBooks Online, we saw that menu on the left that had all those different tabs. This one, you would have to go to the top of the screen and select these highlighted tabs at the top. So this one is this learning curve is a little more steep. This is for someone who already has some accounting knowledge, knows how to run some basic reports, and would just need to kind of play around in here a little bit, but knows what they're looking for. So I wouldn't say this would be the best way to start if you have no QuickBooks experience, but this offers you way more accounting functions than QuickBooks Online does. So one of the things that QuickBooks Desktop offers that QuickBooks Online doesn't is sales orders. And that is applicable for retailers, wholesalers, suppliers. Most companies in those industries work with sales orders. QuickBooks Online does not support that function. They only support estimates. So if your company is used to working with sales orders, then your only choice, honestly, is QuickBooks Desktop. Like we mentioned before, the difference between QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online is that this would be installed directly on a computer. So this is not something that, unless you have the computer with you all the time, you would have access to at all times. You would have to be with that computer all the time. Same applies with sharing the data with your CPA. You would have to download your QuickBooks file, share it with your accountant, and your accountant would have to upload it, make whatever adjustments or journal entries that they would make, and then send you the file back, and you would have to upload it. So it's a little more tedious in that aspect, but it's more sophisticated in the quality of accounting that it offers. In this level of QuickBooks, you're able to do budgets, which is super important to an expanding business. You're able to enter what your budget is for a specific time, whether it be a year or 3 months, however you design it. And then you can run reports that will show you where you are based on the budget and actual. So let's say you budgeted $500 for marketing. It'll show you budgeted $500, but you're at $700 at this point, and it'll show you percentages. You can create graphs. I mean, it's just a little more high end in that aspect. And it also has more industry specific features compared to QuickBooks Online, but it doesn't have as many integrations. And by integrations, I mean, not all banks work with QuickBooks Desktop in the sense that they don't sync automatically. You would have to export what's called a QBO file from your bank account and then upload it into QuickBooks. not with the major banks. We're not talking about the Bank of Americas or Chase or anything of that nature, but the smaller banks, maybe, your local Union Bank or something of that nature, may not work as well with QuickBooks Desktop as they would with QuickBooks Online. So that's something definitely to consider. Also, the cost is a license or a per user fee. So you would have to renew that on a yearly basis. This is not broken up into a monthly subscription like QuickBooks Online is. So that's something also to consider. Another big part of this is that QuickBooks Desktop works best on Windows. So if you have a Mac, they have a Mac version. I'm not fond of it. I think that the QuickBooks version is truly the best. So if you are a consultant who only works on Macs, QuickBooks Online may be the only solution for you. And that's basically it on QuickBooks Desktop. And again, with both of these, the greatest features that they have, aside from you understanding the health of your business, is the ability to create all these financial reports. I know I keep saying that, but this is so important to understanding the health of your business. Your accounts payable reports are going to really show you, who do you owe money to? When are they due? When are my bills due? Should I be cutting checks every week, or should I be cutting checks every 2 weeks? It'll be a good way to compare statements. It'll be a good way for you to understand your expenses and not have to guess, how much did I spend on office cleaning? How much did I spend on office supplies? It's a good way also to run reports and understand, where can I cut? Where am I spending too much? Because we always, as humans, we assume figures, and we tend to either underestimate or overestimate. And this is going to give you facts. It's not going to give you your assumptions. It's going to show you really what is happening within your business. Banking, one of my favorite reports for the banking function is check detail. So for the professionals out there that have their own business, but may have an office manager or an admin or a bookkeeper, and you're not necessarily entering the bills or paying the bills, because they do that for you, but you want to know what was paid, who was paid this week, how many checks were cut. You can run a check detail report, and it will show you, obviously based on the information that was entered, of course, what was cut this week. What am I expecting to pay out? Which I think is great. Because if you're only looking at that bank balance as your example of where your business is at, you're losing, right? Profit and loss statements are so important to take a look at. And again, this really can only work if you're using the software, if you're utilizing the data, if you're entering the data. You want to know, how did I do this month? Do I have a profit? Because just because we have a ton of sales, unless we can, really take a look at our expenses, we don't know how we're doing. We don't know if we did great or we did bad. We shouldn't only find out how we did at tax season. So profit and loss statements are crucial to understanding the health of your business. Balance sheets are a good way to know loans outstanding. Do we have leases? Do we have, owner's draw? That's every time you take money from your business, right? You're taking away from the equity of your business. The balance sheet is super important and super helpful in seeing that. So again, if we're utilizing the software and entering the data, then of course, we're gonna see all of these things and access all these things at any time. Let me see some questions here. Let's see. Is the cost for each user or for all users? So the cost depends on the number of users, and that's on both platforms. It can be online or it can be on desktop. Does QuickBooks Online have a dashboard? Yes, it does. Both of these have dashboards. Is there inventory tracking capabilities in QuickBooks Desktop? Yes, there is. And there's barcode scanners that work in compliance with QuickBooks Desktop. So for anyone who has inventory, carries inventory, needs to keep track of inventory, you can most definitely do it better on QuickBooks Desktop. I've had a couple of restaurant clients that have used QuickBooks Online and still manage their inventory that way. And QuickBooks Online also works really good with POS systems. It's made for that. It's made to integrate well with POS systems and inventory tracking systems. So it really depends, again, the level of reporting that you need or recording. QuickBooks Desktop also allows you to have a more extensive item list. So let's say you are a consultant, but you offer various services that are tied to different sorts of income. Like you're a consultant in marketing, but you're also a consultant in banking. And you want to make sure that you can see what you make in each specific industry. QuickBooks Desktop has a better way to track that than QuickBooks Online does. However, let's give a real estate example for QuickBooks Online. Let's say you are a real estate investor, or you're a property manager, or you own properties, and you have one vendor who takes care of all your cleaning and your garbage removal, and you get one bill, but that one bill is tied to 5 different properties. You would then create tags for every property. So let's say ABC Carding sent me a bill for $500 for all of my properties, 123 Main Street, 234 South Street, et cetera, et cetera. I can break out that bill to show what portion of that bill went to each property. And then I can run reports for specific properties or specific tags alone, which is also great. Because if you have multiple businesses and you want to know how each business is doing, although maybe all the bills are paid through the same entity, that's one of the great features that QuickBooks can offer you. All right. And for taxes, our favorite word. QuickBooks really, once you start implementing this on a regular basis in your business, will make tax season so much easier, not only for you, but for your tax professional. It won't be a guessing game. You won't have to wonder, did I lose money this year? Did I make money this year? It'll really help you understand the financial health of your business. And it'll help you prepare for tax planning, right? If you're someone that has to pay taxes every 3 months, if we have a flow or we understand how our sales work, then we know this is how much I need to set aside in order to have money for my taxes, right? It's great for that. Also, it'll keep you tax compliant. No one wants to get audited. Nobody likes to get audited. But guess what? If you have a QuickBooks that's set up and done correctly, you have your receipts uploaded, which you're able to do. That audit comes in, you have everything that you need in order to present the documentation, which I'm sure everyone here would love that. No one wants to get audited and not know where to turn, right? Or that CPA that processed your taxes is nowhere to be found. If you have accurate record keeping of your books, you'll be good. So that is super, super, super important. Let me see if anybody else has anything in the chat. Okay. All right, so we are going to open it up for Q&A, Chris.
All right. Great presentation. Wonderful information.
Thank you. I know it's a lot of information for everyone, but I hope that I was able to show you all a little bit of what QuickBooks can do. I mean, there's so much that we can do this for hours. There's so many functions within QuickBooks. And it's just great. It really is. But I know it's a lot of information. I know it can seem daunting on most people that maybe don't have an accounting background, but this was made for everyone. This is for everyone's use. So do not feel intimidated. You do not need to have an accounting background to use this program. And I hope that that's the message I got across today.
Yeah, yeah. And oh, it makes taxes so much easier.
On top of that, the
Oh,
biggest winning of it all is that your taxes will be so much easier.
yeah,
Everybody wants to know that their taxes won't be, a painful process, having to scramble to find receipts or guess how much mileage did I use, or, it'll help you track all your
yep.
expenses. Now, you could be underestimating the amount of money you're shelling out for your business. You could be paying more taxes than you need to. So this is a good way to keep track of that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So let's jump into the Q&A. There's some that are still here, not sure if you answered them or not. So I'll just start from the top.
Awesome.
So Anonymous asks, are there any inventory tracking capabilities in QuickBooks Desktop?
Yes, there are. QuickBooks Desktop, both of them have inventory tracking capabilities, but QuickBooks Desktop works better with barcode systems. At least that's what I've been told, and from my research I've seen, it just works better. So I would suggest QuickBooks Desktop for someone who really needs inventory management, which is QuickBooks Desktop is really great for wholesalers, retailers, suppliers, especially because of that sales order function. So that's only available in QuickBooks Desktop. And a sales order is really how most of these companies work. So you can create it in the system, send it out to your client, and everything's linked. It'll take it out of your inventory. I mean, it's just great.
Awesome. So we have Amy asks, can you talk a little bit more about tracking mileage? Does QuickBooks Online have GPS functionality, i.e. turn on while driving for work?
Yes, so they have a way to track your mileage, which I'm assuming is GPS compatible, but it also has mileage logs, which you can manually enter. So let's say you are like most of us who are consultants, there's times I go and see a client, but there's also times I go and pick up my kids, right? If I have that GPS on all day, how am I going to break it out, right? So if I know I can just manually enter the miles that I used for that client that day, that might work better for me. However, if all you're doing driving is seeing clients, then yes, you should be using a GPS enabled one. And if they don't offer it, then they most certainly work with a platform that does. That will automatically transfer that information over for you. That's one of the best parts of QuickBooks Online, is that they have over 650 integrations. So I am very confident that GPS mileage is one of them. Desktop only has 240. So that just shows you the level of integration that QuickBooks Online has.
So question by, and I'm sorry if I butcher your name, Shadat Puri. So he asks, can QuickBooks do cash-based accounting?
Yes, yes, very good question. So QuickBooks gives you the option of doing accrual-based and cash-based. So for those who don't know, the difference is if I get a bill from you, Chris, right? Accrual means that the bill, I enter it into QuickBooks the date you created the bill. So if you created the bill April 1st, I'm entering it April 1st. However, if you handed me the bill on April 5th, right, then I've entered it on a cash basis on April 5th, or the day that I cut you a check. So that's really the difference between accrual, which means we're carrying over expenses, and cash, which means I'm only showing the expense when I'm paying it out. Okay. They gives you the option to run reports in both ways. So yes, both platforms do. Yes.
Gotcha. And as far as, I am not an accountant, but as far as I understand, you do have to pick either one or the other when it comes to,
Yes, to
you
your
know,
method of accounting.
right, right. And you have to carry that out through the entire year. And then that's
Correct.
how your accountant knows how to run your taxes and all that.
Absolutely. So that's definitely a decision that you have to make from the beginning. However, for filing purposes. However, for your own internal purposes, you can run them however you want. But for your filing purposes, yes, you need to establish what method of accounting are you going to stick to for however long your CPA guides you to.
Awesome. All right. So we have Sofiana asks, how do you upload the proofs for auditing?
How do you upload proof? So usually when you have audits, they will ask you for financial statements and receipts. I don't know if they used to do this. You can share files. I don't know, based on the new laws and regulations, your CPA would know better. But if you were to share your file with all of your expenses and stuff tied in, it's answering any questions that you may have. So that might be a good way. Also, when you're audited and they're asking you very specific questions about expenses that you claimed, you have reports that support those figures. So if you said, I spent $2,000 on meals and entertainment, you're going to have a report that not only shows $2,000, but will show all the transactions that led you to the 2,000. It's not a made up number, right? Now, if you're using the report, if you made up the number, I can't help you with that, but it'll definitely be a sense of support for you, for sure.
We have Atila asks, in summary, would you recommend the online or desktop version for a restaurant?
For a restaurant, I would actually, what kind of restaurant? What kind of restaurant? Are you a bakery? You know, are you a steakhouse and a seafood and everything? You know, it really truly depends on the level of accounting that you need. If you want to see how much you spend on dairy, how much you spend on meat, how much you spend on fruits and citrus and all of that, it is possible to do it on QuickBooks Online. I'm not telling you it's not. But if you want to manage your alcohol inventory, let's say you hold a liquor license, then QuickBooks Desktop might be a better integration for you. So it really depends on how much do you want to know? You know, how much do you want to have at your fingertips? QuickBooks Online always tends to be my favorite because of, again, accessibility, the ability to access it from any device, but it has its limitations. So it really is up to you. You have to understand how you are as a business owner. Is this something that you want to look at on a daily basis? Excuse me, or do you want to see it once a month? If you're seeing it once a month, then desktop is fine for you. So that's really, you would have to answer that for yourself, for sure.
All right, we have Maria asks, do you recommend to have separate accounts / QuickBooks for manufacturing and distribution business?
I would definitely, if the companies are not linked, meaning, what's the best way to describe it? If you want to see how each company or each function is doing independently, then have separate companies. And you can have in your one QuickBooks account a separate company. You can have manufacturing and distribution. You see them both on the same dashboard. You would just have to click back and forth between one and the two. And there's ways, like if there's transactions that happen and affect both, you know, interchange, it's called intercompany transactions. Very easy way to do that. That's journal entries. Your accountant or your professional would show you how to do that. But I would always say, if you want to see how these entities are doing on their own, separate them. And you can have as many sub companies as you want for your own purposes as well. Now, I would ask your CPA, because unless both of those companies have different tax IDs, then there's really no sense in separating them both. It's one entity. But if they have separate tax IDs, you're having separate, you know, transactions and customers and stuff happening in both, and you want to see how each division is doing, yeah, separate them for sure. It'll be a clearer way to see the numbers for you.
A question by Kelly. She asks, do you know if QuickBooks integrates with Zoom or Microsoft Teams for client video call appointments?
That is a great question. I really don't know. I have not seen that being a capability, but maybe post-pandemic, that's one of the integrations that can be applied. For the specific clients I work with, they don't utilize those functions, so that's not something I would search for. But it's a great question. I don't see why not. I would definitely look into it. Because that'd be a great way to record your time spent with clients. So I'm sure they have some kind of integration for sure.
That is very true. So we are hitting the top of the hour. We're going to get one more question.
Sure.
Let's see. Okay, so we'll ask, does credit card processing work with our present processor, or do we have to go through QuickBooks and their own processor?
You can use your own processor. You do not need to use QuickBooks. However, if you're sending the QuickBooks link with your invoice, it will be linked to the QuickBooks processing system. Obviously, it makes sense for them, right? For you to want to keep it in-house. But you can certainly use your own processor and tie the payment once it comes in. You would tie the deposit to the invoice that's outstanding already in QuickBooks for your customer. It's just an additional step instead of QuickBooks automatically marking it paid for you once they receive the payment. But you don't have to go with them. No, you don't have to. But they will make it a little difficult for you if you don't.
All right. So that is all the questions we could answer for today. I know there's still some more, but we have an event next week, and I'd like to invite everyone. Whoops, actually give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up the right slide. But we have an event next week that is QuickBooks Online, and we're inviting the same wonderful guest to show us how to manage QuickBooks Online. Is that right?
Yeah, it's gonna be more hands-on. So I will actually open up QuickBooks Online. We'll walk through some of the functions that we spoke about today. You'll actually be able to see it as it's happening in real time. We'll be using a dummy company, so I can't tell you there'll be a ton of transactions in there, but it'll be a good tutorial for those who are thinking of signing up for QuickBooks Online. You may want to have your QuickBooks Online subscription by that time, so we can work simultaneously. You can be watching me and trying the features out at the same time.
Great. So for everyone, this is not Tuesday, this is Thursday. This is next week. So for the QR code here, all you have to do is point your phone, your camera. You don't have to take a picture. You just point at this little thing here, QR code, and you'll get a link that pops up. You click the link, and that's where you can register for this event. But that's about it. We're the NJSBDC. We've helped over 13,000 plus small businesses grow with no-cost business consulting, training and events starting at $0, and exclusive small business resources. So to get started, go ahead to the link on the bottom, njsbdc.com/request-counseling. That is all. And thank you again, Sierra, for a wonderful presentation.
Oh, thank you. Happy to be here with all of you. Thank you so much.
Great. And we'll see everyone next week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.